Hello, everybody. Welcome to another session, another podcast of the series Inspiring Educators. Today, we have Mrs. Rachna Sharma, who's the principal of Silver Oaks International School, Oakdale Campus, Hyderabad. Well, Rachna has traveled across the length and breadth of the country, and there are varied experiences that she collected to finally put them all together in her leadership position in different schools. But before I introduce her, let's hear it from her. Ma'am, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We are all looking forward to learn about your journey. How did it all start? How did you really decide on becoming an educator? So if you could introduce yourself and, just share, how did it all start? How did you reach the education sector? That would be wonderful. Over to you, ma'am.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me over. As you said, I've traveled the length and the breadth of the country. That is because my husband was serving the Indian Air Force. So thanks to his moving, I moved. And again, thanks to his moving, I could not really pick up any other career but a teaching career. So it was more of that. But then, also what also happens is, since we move from place to place for the requirement of your husband's work, so you move place to place and you have schools there within your campuses. So there are KVs, there are Air Force schools, and you are qualified. You're qualified in different ways. You're not qualified to be a teacher, all right, but you're qualified. You have the qualification in hand. And most of the time, these schools need teachers. So you really do not need too much of a B.Ed or things of that kind to teach young people. There's a lot you can bring from your life to those people. So that's precisely how my thing started. So I was with computers. I mean, it's, in the beginning, when early 90s and all that, late 80s, early 90s, when the computers were really coming in big way, I was a trainer for computers. So I was, training people for COBOL language, Fortran, and things of that kind. And I was also doing programming.
Oh.
So that's what I was teaching to start off with. I was teaching, but I was doing that. I was a trainer for all that. And then as we moved and the options for doing this kind of things became narrower, so I started bringing that to schools. Mm-hmm. So I started teaching that in schools, bringing that. So I worked with basic and I worked with other things which the school students could learn. And that time, there was a boom of computers coming into the schools also. Because the country as such wanted young people also to get a hang of it. And that time, the scare was not what to do and how to do, it was how to switch it on also. Wow. That was also, the very beginning.
90s,
early 90s.
Early 90s, late 90s.
Early 90s, yeah. And we had those floppy disk drives and, 5/1/4 inch and 3.5 inch floppy disk drives and stuff. So that's how my journey of teaching started, teaching people for something. And I was young, really, really young. So when I was doing that with computers, I taught from the age group of 8 to 80.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the age, 8 to 80.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 8 to sometime it was students, and then after that there were people who were working professionals. Dealing with them, teaching them all that.
Everybody would look at you, right?
Yeah.
Even the owners of the school would come, okay, Rachna, how do I put this on? And
yes.
I understand.
Yeah. So dealing with all that taught me a lot about people also. Taught me a lot about learning also. How learning happens at different age groups, how people learn, how does that happen? And how do I make it possible for an 80-year-old man to learn the same thing what I teach an 8-year-old child to learn? So bringing that, it taught me a lot about how learning happens. Mm-hmm. And that is what interested me into the entire gamut of teaching learning. Then I realized that when you can bring about a difference in how people learn, if you can influence that, why not do that? Right. And somewhere down the line, in that process, I decided that that's what I want to be. That's what I want to take up as my profession. And 27 years, and I'm still enjoying doing what I do.
Wow.
It's been good. Yeah.
So when did that first inflection point come, when you moved from being a teacher to being an educator who could actually see a bigger picture, that?
Yeah. So what happened was, as I moved from place to place, I learned a lot about different education systems, how how different education systems within the country work, how different education systems beyond the country, outside the country also work.
Right.
And also I worked in different kinds of schools. Mm-hmm. That's how I learned about different education systems. So within the country, I also learned about how Kendriya Vidyalayas work, how Air Force schools work, how private schools work. And I taught, when I actually moved only to schools, I taught from pre-primary to grade 12.
Wow.
So, all that, it gave me a wholesome learning. It taught me so much. Otherwise you don't realize, you move from place to place, you do this job and you do sometimes, and it's always been a challenge, when you're teaching, let's say, students of grade 3, 4, 5, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to teach grade 12. And that happened because you move from place to place. What you have available, you pick up that. Not by choice, but sometimes it's most of the time by what is available.
Absolutely.
So that every time you put in work for that, because it's not easy. When you go and stand in front of people, it's not easy. That you need to know what you're doing. Yeah. Even if it's a young kid, you can't afford to waste their time. Right. When you do that across the grade levels, in different places, in different boards, in different scenarios, you learn. You grow as a person. Absolutely. As an educator, you grow. So somewhere in between that, I realized that now I've got the hang of things. So that's how it was, and somewhere in between. And then also, as you grow in age, as you grow with experience, you start taking up roles with that much more, which require that much more experience. Absolutely. To be able to, take it up. So, and it kept working that way. That's how it was.
So your experience led to better skills, led to more responsibility, led
Absolutely.
to your
or either way, better skills added to experience led to more responsibility added more skills. Absolutely. And added more experience, and it was an iterative process, and that's how it went on.
That's the spiral. That's how the spiral.
And it still goes on. That doesn't stop.
Absolutely. So you've actually, if you see, what I hear is you've taught kids from pre-primary to grade 12.
Yes.
And since you've experienced that entire range of learners, there would be some things which are common, and in various age groups there would be some things which are not common at all, where you'll have to kind of differentiate your teaching and your experience creation for them.
Yeah.
So what would it be which would be common for everybody? What was that one thing that you found common in all the students across the age groups?
I think willingness to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That need and desire to learn.
Right.
And to learn, again, as a teacher, you have to take it to the class in a manner that they wish to learn that. If you take it to the class, if this is to be learned for marks, it can never be learned.
Absolutely.
It can never be learned. You can't lure a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old that it is for marks. Maybe you could do it for a 12th grader for a few months. It's only when the exams are right there, and that's a big board exam that you have. But then if you take it in a manner, I think all across any age group, if you bring it to them, as I told you earlier, I had a gentleman who was 80-year-old also I was teaching. He also had the desire to learn. And what he told me? So I used to ask him, why do you want to learn now at the age of 80? So he says, computers, by now God will also have computers in his workplace or office or whatever. So I'll straight go to heaven, because he'll need people like that who are trained. So that's why I want to learn. So, but that man also had a desire to learn.
Absolutely.
Desire to learn, I think, is one very innate thing in human beings. That needs to be, that needs to be brought out. That needs to be, kind of, people need to be. You need to make people think about things.
Yeah, we need to ignite that.
You need to ignite. Yeah, that was the word. You need to ignite that, and then they take off. And that's what is the role of a teacher: to ignite that thought, ignite that thinking.
I'll take
ignite the curiosity.
You said, it's so beautiful what you just mentioned, that those marks are actually, we think they're tangible, but they're actually intangible, right?
Intangible.
And as humans, our psychology only accepts those things which we are able to comprehend, right?
Yes.
Now imagine a 7-8-year-old child who in his mind cannot comprehend what marks are. For him, it's something which I'll get.
Yeah.
He has no idea how will he use it ever, by the way.
Yeah.
And again, you said it right. Maybe a 12th standard child, he has it as a tangible because his university admissions kind of depend on that sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. So for him, it's a tangible. But if you look at all the other students, that can never be an influencing factor or a motivational factor for somebody to learn. So for a teacher, the most important point becomes how can you really ignite that learning desire in the child, and if that
bring that joy of learning.
Absolutely, that is so beautiful. Now, what that again takes me further to, and I think you're the best person to answer this because you've been majorly worked with kids across the board. That today the new teachers who are joining, for them, the challenges are very different, right? Mm-hmm. The kind of learners, the kind of students we used to get 10, 15, 20 years ago, and we both have experienced that. And the kind of learners that we get today there's a sea difference, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that a new teacher, for them, it will be very difficult to go to, a third, fourth grade in the first year of teaching and then go and teach 11th, 12th grade, because again, their complete perspective about life, their maturity levels, everything is changed. What do you think should a teacher really be focusing on if they end up in a situation like yours where they have to teach different classes, different levels? What would be your one tip or one guidance to them, to the teachers who might have to go to different classes and handle students today?
I think what holds any teacher in good stead is her confidence.
Okay.
So that confidence comes from your knowledge.
Got it.
You need to know. You can't fool a third grader, you can't fool a 12th grader. Absolutely. You can't. So you need to have your complete knowledge and also the ability to say that I don't know. It's okay. I don't know. I am a teacher, but that's okay. If I don't know something, instead of just fooling around and saying this could be that and that could be that, you lose your respect. A child learns, any human being learns only from a person they place on a higher pedestal.
Right.
Only then you feel that, there's something that this person can give. So you need to have that kind of a thing within you, that either you know things, first you go there knowing things. But as today's students, you were saying, they know a lot of things. Because they are not only dependent on the teacher. They have a variety of other ways from where they can learn. They may ask you a question, you may not know the answer. That's perfectly okay. We are also human beings. It's perfectly okay to say, I don't know, but I'll come back to you. And then come back to the child. The next day, come back to the child and give him the answer. Beautiful. I think that kind of confidence within yourself is very important, because only then you deliver what you deliver, and they take in what you deliver. It's just not you delivering what you want to deliver, teaching what you want to teach. It's also important that they take. Otherwise, your entire teaching is futile. It's of no use.
And I think what you said is actually, it makes so much sense that it'll be a teacher who has the confidence to actually stand up and even be transparent, have integrity, and say, guys, I know this and I don't know this. So that confidence and that transparency, if they go hand in hand, a teacher needs to practice that. And again, the second point that you mentioned, that kids today, the children today, students today, have access to information using technology. So information technology that way, in so many different ways that let's say 15, 20 years ago, a teacher might have said something and it would take a couple of years for the learner to realize that, okay, what I was told then was not right. But today it's on the snap of a finger, right? It's like the learner can get to know in a couple of hours, if not in a matter of minutes, that what the teacher is saying is right or not. And technology is really changing a lot of things. So think about this. So, if technology is really already empowering the learners to a level where they are bringing transparency, they are bringing out, integrity kind of things right to the forefront. Do you think technology might also, grow to a level that it might replace teachers, or it might become the primary source of information instead of the secondary source or enablement tool, and the teacher might become an enabler? Do you think that might ever happen?
Even now I feel this model of a flipped classroom, where your basic reading, basic understanding of something comes in maybe through technology, but then absorbing that knowledge, making sense of that knowledge, of all these Jean Piaget's theory, or any of these theories which we talk about, constructivism or cognitivism or whatever. So all those, that happens only when you have discussions based around it. You kind of connect to two things that are relevant to you, that a machine doesn't do. Absolutely. We've experienced last 2 years, that connect is not built. Right. The connect that a teacher and the classroom, so it is not for just the delivery of knowledge. That anything can do, the book can do, or it can be replaced by technology, but that human touch cannot be replaced. And that is what I think is that factor X which makes learning happen. Yeah. So that the teacher brings it. So even before the pandemic, when I really believe that this kind of a flipped classroom model, especially in a little maybe grade 6 upward, is a good thing to do, because then you are involving the child in doing his amount of reading, his or her amount of reading. The teacher is not for that basic thing. The teacher is for lifting it from there to a next higher level, clearing off the doubts that have already come because you've read something, because you've already thought about something. So that's what is the teacher's role, more importantly than just delivering that knowledge. Delivering that knowledge, technology can do. And I think we should make use of technology like that. But human interaction, there is peer learning that happens. There is simultaneously in a class, imagine you're having discussions about certain things. Imagine if it's a science class, what you've learned about, let's say, friction, and then you actually do it in the class. And then you understand, oh, this didn't happen, or this happened, or this worked like that. All that happens in the classroom. Just that talk, which is, if a teacher is talking, standing there for 40 minutes, that it can be replaced. Right. It's the interaction with another human being who is more experienced, to be able to clear those doubts which came through when you went through that material, when you went through that reading, is what is more importantly a teacher's role, which cannot be replaced by technology.
Got it. So if I try to put that in my thoughts or in my words, would be that the teacher's role will move and has moved and will further move away from sharing information to teaching the learners how to learn. So for example, a science teacher might not actually be teaching science, might be teaching how to learn science than anything else.
Yes.
Mathematics
and also she will be doing a lot of discussions based on that. Right. And a lot more learning happens through those discussions. Right. Because then there are questions that are being asked, there are doubts that are arising as the discussion is happening. And when the doubt gets cleared, then that learning happens. So that's where, and the doubt could be mine, doubt could be my classmates. Right. So when she's clearing that, somebody else might get another doubt. So that kind of leads into that learning which takes place at a very basic level. The learning happens when you're reading. Right. But when that thing is being mulled upon, and when people are actually discussing it and working on it, or doing something with that newly acquired knowledge, then that knowledge actually gets internalized, absorbed by the human mind.
Right. So it's like there are these learning gaps, these gaps in human learning and understanding of the world which happen, and they used to be information gaps in the past, and they are now the learning and understanding gaps. Yes. And an educator who would be able to bridge that gap would be a more successful educator than others, right?
Yeah. And so you're not only for delivering information.
Yeah,
delivering information can be, they can pick it up from there and other sources.
Absolutely.
You're more for bringing in that discussion, that filling up those, right, or making them understand how to learn, or building that kind of a thing in the classroom.
I so wish most of the teachers start looking at education from this perspective, and then it would it would actually attract more people towards becoming teachers, because I see a lot of teachers struggling and then they going back to the world, to the society and the world, thinking, oh, teaching, I don't know if I want to become a teacher or not, and thinking that, okay, I don't know what teachers are really doing. And that has led to these huge problems. I'm sure you must have heard about this. United Nations, World Bank numbers say that the world requires an additional 70 million teachers by the next 5 to 7 years. And if we are not able to produce those kind of teachers, there would be a huge education crisis, all those things. And one challenge that we have researched is the current teachers, people who are teaching right now, they wish to leave, and newer generations, they don't wish to come into teaching. So instead of that number which has to be achieved, instead of that gap decreasing, the gap is actually continuously increasing. And it might be that by 2030, instead of developing just or reaching a number of just 10 million more teachers required or 5 million more teachers required, we might actually reach 100 million more teachers required. And I'm really scared of that situation, right? So as educators, for us, it is it's very important that we motivate the next generations to become a teacher. And it's not that teaching doesn't offer money, right? It's really evolved a lot. Right from government schools to international schools to even private schools, we offer good salaries now. We offer there are opportunities which really can be as good as a software engineer, if
absolutely, or better
in fact. And but people still don't know about that. So if you had to share a message, and maybe we might actually just take out this message as well as a separate video and share it with the world, outside. What would be your message to the next generations? How would you introduce the teaching profession to them that they get motivated to come and join? You might want to talk about the opportunity. Again, I know that the next generation are not just looking at money. They want money, but they want challenges. They want to solve problems. So how would you introduce teaching as a career to them that they get attracted towards it? And by listening to your message, they decide on picking up teaching as a career.
Okay. For me, a good night's sleep is because the work I've done during the day. And for me, every day I get a reward. Every time I see that sparkle in a child's eye, when he understands something, nothing can beat that. Absolutely nothing can beat that. So in any other field, you don't get that. You get your feedback there, right there, every day on hourly basis, you get your feedback. And that feedback can be good, that feedback can be bad. But with children, the feedback is most of the time, and if you put in your share of work, feedback is most of the time good. The love and affection that you get from them, the respect that you get from them, I do not think any other career can be as rewarding as this. Because it's on leaving aside the money. If you don't talk about that, most of the other jobs give you money. But the kind of satisfaction, the kind of feeling that I have done something good in life.
Fulfillment, right?
Yeah, fulfillment. Fulfillment also comes in when you meet that child coming back later and he's done something in life. He's achieved something in life. He's become a good human being. He's been able to make an impact to the world. Each one of those things bring about a lot of fulfillment, a lot of satisfaction that you've been able to do good. And that kind of a thing, no other job can do. So I think that drives us every single day. For me, my one driving factor every single morning is my aim, I say, in life is that every time anybody in the school is entering the school, they should enter with a smile. If they enter with a smile, then I'm doing my job well. Because if a teacher is happy, the students are happy. If the students are happy, the teachers are happy. And so the entire school happy. Right. And the learning happens. That's what is required. So I think the amount of satisfaction, the amount of fulfillment, the amount of self-happiness or self-satisfaction, basically, what you get through this kind of a job is enormous. The kind of respect that you get in this kind of a job is enormous. That surpasses everything else. But having said that, the money is also not bad. The working hours are not bad at all. You get the kind of leaves you get, as you go back home early. It's a different thing. You carry back work home. I mean, to believe that it's just In the northern part of the country, it's like 7 to 2, or southern part of the country, a little late, whatever. Those 6-8 hours of work which you go for, it's not that. I mean, it's not that you do that and you come back and don't do your homework. Well, you need to put in work. You need to put in a lot of work. But then that's what it is, If you're taking back home a salary, or you're taking back home a reward in whatever form, you need to put in work for that. Only then you take it back like that. It doesn't come easy. Nothing comes easy in life. So you given that, you get double the amount in form of money, in form of varied other things. So that kind of, is very, very motivating for me. A lot of young people think it is a boring job, but for me, I would say, it's a challenge. I throw it out to them. Try it. It's a challenge. It's not easy standing in front of 20, 25, 30 young people and trying to teach them something. Sometimes you will have questions, you will have things coming up, you don't know. Sometimes, it can be very interesting, it can be very challenging, and it's not easy. So people to believe that teaching is a very easy job, no. To believe that it doesn't pay, no. To believe that it's nothing else I could do, so I do this, absolutely not. But the fact still remains that a lot of people do not take up teaching as their first option. It's the second, third, fourth, fifth option. I would encourage young people to actually come and join, because there's so much happening in this field. Every day there's so much of change, so many changes that are taking place. Now teaching is just not picking up a lesson and teaching the same thing 10 years, same thing you teach every year. It's not that. Every year you need to evolve, because the young people who are coming to you every year are evolving at a very, very fast pace. You need to bring yourself up to that level. You need to build your capacity to that level. And that's a challenge. But then if you've done that, and you see that smile on their face, and you see that they have learned, you get your reward. And you really can't ask for anything more in life. So I think it's a beautiful place to be in if you put in your work.
I'm sure a lot of younger people would be people from the next generation would be motivated by listening to your message.
I hope so.
I'm sure they would want to come and learn more about how to become teachers, or how to become good teachers. Actually, becoming a teacher is easy. Becoming a good and a skilled and a qualified teacher is what is really difficult. So if we talk about that, let's say 100 of these the people from next generation who hear a message get motivated and want to apply to your school, or want to apply to these international schools, and they want to join. So what are those, few qualities, few things that you would look for in a youngster, in a teacher, in a new teacher, for example, who's qualified, done their qualifications and everything, and they're coming to you to get a job? What would you look for in them? And passion.
Passion is most important.
Got it.
And that kind of integrity within them.
Got it.
Because when we are teaching people, we are not teaching them math, physics, or chemistry, or English, or whatever, Hindi, whatever. We're just not teaching them that. We are making them good human beings. And we are role models. If I say this is, don't do this, I should be having that kind of a belief in myself that I will also not do it. Because if I do it and I tell the students in the class not to do it, it doesn't work. So that is very, very important. To know that you are going to be role models, you need to have that kind of
integrity,
self-belief,
and
that integrity within you, that willingness to be able to, give up certain things. Because if you're telling students not to do some particular things, basic thing, if you're teaching them not to lie, you can't lie.
Absolutely.
You can't lie. If you're teaching them not to cheat, you can't cheat. If you're teaching them to be good people, if you're teaching them to not really shout at people and things of that kind, and the next moment you shout at somebody, it doesn't work. So not to shout in a class, or not to, raise your voice to hurt somebody's feelings is not an easy thing to do in a classroom. When you're dealing with 25, 30 students, to be able to do that and still retain their attention and still help them in learning is not an easy thing to do. But if you're able to bring yourself to that, then you become a good teacher. And for all that, passion combined with that, drive to do, willingness to put in so much hard work. I think if you have passion, then everything else falls in place. You are wanting to do that. If you're a passionate person, passionate to actually bring about a change in the world, that's the place to be. Because the number of people you impact are phenomenal. So, no other place you can bring in a change in the world. If you think this is not right, that is not right, and a lot of young people these days have, this is not working, the country is not working right. So make a change.
Keep the change.
And if you want to make a change, come to schools. And you can make a change.
Absolutely. So I'm sure most of our listeners would have loved this part, and you are going to get a lot of friend requests on LinkedIn, connection requests on LinkedIn, and people are going to come to you to ask more questions about teaching and everything.
I'd be happy to answer
one question that I want to ask you before we close today's session, that you're doing all of these things, right? And for all these years, what keeps Rachna going? What is the secret? What is the secret source of your energy that you're able to manage a school, you're able to manage yourself, you're able to manage the thought, you're able to motivate the next generations? How do you do that? So what's your source of energy?
My source of energy is, I think, the love that I get from all the people around me. So my students, every morning they'll give you such a cheerful good morning that your day is done, your day is made. You want to do so much more for them. The support system that I get from my workplace, right. That belief that, okay, whatever you do, we are there with you in every which way. Be it anybody in my entire work environment. I know of a lot of people, a lot of teachers, educators who are not able to do what they want to do because their so-called managements sometimes don't allow them to do. I have been lucky. I have been very, very lucky because I have got that support all the time. So to be able to say that, we are the ones who can make a change and things of that kind, you should be able to actually bring that into your school. And sometimes some people do not have that, it's not possible for them for varied reasons. I've been touched with very, very lucky with that I have people who support me. And that's how this entire ecosystem of our schools. We have 5, Silver Oaks International Schools, we have 5 schools. And the 5 schools are doing extremely well because we have been given that freedom to be able to do things. And that is very important. That trust that you leave that person with that faith, with that belief that person will do things right, the person will definitely do things right. If you keep questioning them, so I do not go and question my teachers ever in the classroom what they have done. Because I've given them a job to do and I know they will do it right because I'm leaving it to them. No human being actually wants to do something wrong if he or she is left with that, somebody says that this is what you have to do and take care that you do it. They will do it right. And if they don't do it right, they should have that kind of a belief that they can come back and say that I don't know how to do this, help me with this. That's what I'm there for. That's what is my job. So if all these systems work together, then there is that, love, that respect, that mutual admiration for one another's work that keeps you going. And I think that is what keeps me going too.
So I've always been a very strong believer and promoter of culture of the organization.
Yeah.
And if the culture is right, I think everything falls in place. Yeah. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? What gets from above, from your management, is what you portray. And that's what then starts flowing through the soul of the organization. And I think you described it in such a beautiful way that if there is trust through the organization, it in itself becomes a source of so much energy that everybody wants to put their best foot forward and, give their best to the learning ecosystem.
Yeah. Wonderful. And that's how it becomes an inspired an ecosystem of inspired learning. That's what we say.
And that's what we try to bring to this podcast, inspiring educators, inspirational educators who can inspire the next generation of teachers. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful participant, such a wonderful partner in this journey with me today. I'm sure all our listeners are going to be enjoying a lot listening to this podcast.
I do hope so.
Yeah, they're going to be taking a lot of learnings away. And we would be coming again with another inspirational educator in the next podcast. Till then, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for finding time out of your busy schedule. And all of our listeners, all of our teachers would love to hear more from you more often. And we'll be in touch for that. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.